Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, we'll be talking about astrology and physical health, disabilities. And the thing about this is, as far as, it's going to be basic information on this astrologically. I may do another part later on where it might talk a little bit more deeper about more specific type health related matters. But in general, when you look at astrology and health, look at the first house, the physical body. The sixth house can be physical injuries. It can be work related injuries. Those are the two main houses. You're going to look at now the sun is our physical, can be vitality in its physical, can be the physical body to some degree, but I look at the ascendant as being more dominant in terms of our physical body and injuries, health that can be connected with it. Now, like if it's important to look at the whole chart when you look at these things. I could talk about my chart as some examples and using this in this video to illustrate what you can look for as far as health related issues now in your own chart. Now, the thing about this is as many of you may know, I'm a Cancer Sun with Taurus rising. Now, the thing is, with Taurus ascendant, I've obviously had some throat and neck issues. I had a herniated disc in my neck. Taurus rising can be susceptible to colds and coughs. And the thing about it too is, though, with the Cancer Sun, it can play a role to some degree is in terms of physical related matters. Such in the past, I have had some stomach issues like indigestion and what have you, maybe even bloated stomach and issues with the stomach. But I think when you look at for me, I think I resonate more with the Taurus ascendant as far as the injuries and health related matters go, connected with it. Now, you look at the sun and the ascendant as far as that goes, but you also often the planets in the sixth house, and especially if they make an inconjunct to your ascendant or make an adverse aspect to your sun, even can play a role in health related issues. I have Jupiter in my sixth house in Libra, and it is in conjunct my Taurus ascendant, and I have had kidney issues and lower back issues. Now, planets, and remember Jupiter, those, as I've stated in previous videos, though very strongly benign and benevolent, could also have proclivity to enlarge and expand. And in this case, perhaps it did expand. Some lower back issues, some kidney issues. I had a kidney stone pulverized. And another planet I have in the sixth, almost exactly conjunct my sixth house cusp, is Uranus. Uranus and can be about our nerves. I have, at least for right now, it appears to be irrevocable nerve damage, and also too, when you're talking about Uranus on the sixth, sometimes it could indicate rather unusual health related matters. And the thing about it is, to me, having all certain spastic activity in different parts of my body, I can't even walk really for protracted periods, sometimes without having some spasms in the, like in the ankle area, and it just really, it's something where I do consider it somewhat of an unusual health related situation. Now, I look at yods can also can play a role as well. The thing about it is, I forget their names, but many of you may have seen them. It's a famous conjoined twins. They were on some reality series, and in their chart, this is really about more of a deformity than health related issue. But at the same time, this did have could have had an impact in terms of like maybe walking, because one of their legs, I believe, was longer than the other. It still could put more stress on one leg, which could actually lead to a possible injury. Now, going back to their chart, these conjoined twins have Gemini at 29 degrees on the first house cusp. 29 degrees is a critical degree. If you have that on your sun or your ascendant, it can indicate potential health issues connected with that particular sign that it's in. Oddly enough, Gemini is the sign of the twins. It's twos, and they do have two heads. I thought that was very interesting. Um, and they're twins, and Gemini is the sign of the twins. It's conjoined twins, and this is a physical deformity. The ascendant again could be about what the physical issues. Now, they didn't have the yod in the chart involving the ascendant. However, there is, I believe it was Mars is in conjunct their ascendant Mars in Capricorn, and Capricorn, of course, can be connected with the hamstrings, the bones, the joints. And they also, but at the same time, what I'm going to get at though is Pluto at the time of their birth was not in conjunct their ascendant, but by transit at some point later in life, it did make an in conjunct aspect to the Gemini, 29-degree Gemini rising, which formed the yod in the chart at that time by transit, because you already had Mars in conjunct the Gemini rising, and then at some point Mars did go into the sixth house of health by transit and maybe in conjunct to the ascendant. So at that time, what I'm going to get at is that I do believe that likely took an eventual toll on them a little bit more, and maybe even especially in the legs, because given that one leg is longer than the other. Now, Gemini being about two, they have twos of a number of body parts in their in being conjoined twins. You could look that up on Wikipedia, but I don't remember the specific organs or parts that were double, but they do have a number of them. Now, also, what I want to get at too, going back to the first house, now planets that are inhabiting the first, and they are that could play a role as well in terms of your health. I mean, your moon sign can sometimes give you, I think, some issues health-wise. I have the moon in Gemini in my first house, and again, this goes back to the nerve damage, but which of course, having Uranus on the sixth house cusp, of course, can exacerbate that, give a greater propensity for those issues. But I have had issues, nerve damage to my hands and in my arms, so I mean, and injuries to them as well. I did like sprain a wrist one time, and we sprained an arm, or at least come close maybe to breaking it one time, if not breaking it. You could be susceptible to injuries associated with your moon sign, but especially if it's in the first house of the physical body. So those are some things to look at. Now, Saturn, I think sometimes by sign can give some difficulties as far as health-related issues go. I have, well, again, if you have planets, this is conjunct my ascendant as well. Saturn in Taurus conjunct the ascendant, and again, I have had issues with the throat, with the neck. I have that anyway due to having Taurus ascendant. But having Saturn on, if you have like a planet conjunct the ascendant especially, you may have issues with the physical body associated with that planet. And of course, I have had issues with my teeth, my bones. Those are, I mean, issues, whether it's as far as Saturn goes, and also just generally it can limit the vitality to some degree. If you've got Saturn on the ascendant, Saturn is about the constriction and limitation, of course. Now I'm trying to see if there's any, I mean, if you want to look at sometimes in synastry, people might have some kind of effect on your health, and you probably wonder, well, Edwin, how can that be? How can a person do it? Well, the thing about it is, like, say, I mean, like when you think of the Sun, Mars, and the Ascendant are the three planets I look at, and it's strongly connected with vitality and energy. Now, let's say if you got someone's South Node on your either on your Sun, your Mars, or your Ascendant, it could be very draining on you, and it might, in some cases, might actually zap your physical vitality. Say you even have, like, say, the Sun in a sign Leo, and Leo could be known for their near indefatigable, inexorable energy, and someone's South Node is hitting it. Well, that energy may be zapped to some degree when if you have that aspect in synastry. Now, also too, I mean, by transits you can have, I mean, health issues can arise. I mean, if you have, say, transit Uranus hitting your 6th house, and say it's making an inconjunct aspect to your ascendant, especially and or an adverse aspect to your natal sun, that the issues can come around, which might be nerve related or something with the ankles or the shins, or some very unusual, very spontaneous, unpredictable illness can take place. Say if transit Jupiter is hitting your 1st or your 6th house, that could be some issues like with the liver or the thighs or sciatic nerve. Now, the thing about this too is, and also too, you house rulers can play a role. Some degree, like in my case, I have the ruler of the 8th house in my 6th house, and that's Jupiter. And especially if you've got like the 1st and 6th house involved, I have the ruler of the the ruler of the 8th house posited in the 6th house in my natal chart. And that could indicate some cases, not to be overly morose and morbid, but it could be death through a chronic or habitual illness. And I mean, currently, I do take Celebrex, and Celebrex, you could take certain medicines for some time, and I think that can have an impact. It can cause some damage to an organ, which eventually, even taking it the right way, I think it can have potential adverse effects that might take some time off your life, unfortunately. And I think I could see where that could actually happen with me. So that is where I see. As far as astrology and health related matters, that's pretty much what I got to say as far as that goes. And I mean, if you got transits hitting your 1st house, your 6th house, even like your 1st or 6th house ruler, it might cause some issues. And a lot of it, I mean, you got to blend the sign in, of course, as well. When you look at that, if you got transit Sun, Mars hitting your 12th house, your energy level may be a little bit depleted. You might feel a little bit run down and want to be more succumb to lethargy as opposed to actually doing things. The Jupiter also, again, hitting the 1st or 6th can also be very auspicious, on the other hand, for your health and your physical body at that time as well. I mean, the water signs, I think, are the ones I would say have the weaker constitutions, and the ones that might be more of a greater propensity for being debilitated, being really just getting just general sickness, like just in bed, missing school or work due to some cold or what have you, or some illness that keeps them tied up. Pisces, I mean, Cancer. Many may see Cancer, the zodiac sign Cancer, is the one with the weakest constitution and more apt to and more prone to having a sickness than the other signs. But Pisces as well. I think when I look at Pisces, they're a sign that can be really somewhat lethargic. They're a sign that can really, they don't have the overabundance of energy. They seem to be, it's something about their, I don't know if it's their immune system or what is up with Pisces, but they seem to pick up things very quickly. Maybe it's kind of like the way, it's almost metaphoric with Pisces in a way, or the fact that they seem to absorb so many things, like the behavior of others, and they're susceptible to their extraneous surroundings. I wonder if this is like, well, Pisces might be more susceptible to picking up on others' illness that's in the air, that are germs that are in the air. They seem to be able to do that, I believe, maybe possibly more so than the other zodiac signs on average, I believe. And also they're more prone, of course, to drugs and alcohol, and there's a greater propensity for them toward that. So anyway, and also one last thing I want to get at, the 8th house can be important as well as far as health goes, because the 8th house can be about surgery, matters connected with surgery. If you've got something hitting like your 8th house, especially if it's in there for some time, I mean, let's say you have transit North Node and Cancer hitting the 8th, and it could be about, North Node could be about issues we have to confront. It could be about like having some kind of breast or chest or stomach surgery, especially if it's in conjunct your ascendant, or say if transit Saturn or is hitting the 8th house. It could be something associated with the bones or the knees or the joints that's surgical. It has to be taken care of. I mean, Pluto, of course, the transit Pluto's in the 8th. It could be reproductive, some of the reproductive system or the bladder may need to be taken care of. So, especially again, if at the time of the transit, if it's in conjunct the ascendant or even making an adverse aspect to your natal sun. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for astrology and physical health and disability. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.